Welcome to the SAP Art of Business studio. We are here at the Heimatmuseum Davos during the World Economic Forum annual meeting. My name is Stefan Schoepfel. I'm from SAP. I'm the co-founder and co-head of the Intelligent Enterprise Institute, SAP's Think and Do Tank. So we have some amazing panelists here with us today. And first of all, I would like to introduce Nicole Büttner, and you are the founder and CEO of Mertantix Momentum. And I'm very glad that you're here.
Thanks for having me.
Then we also have Jonas Andrulis, being the founder and CEO of Aleph, and Juergen Mueller, our Chief Technology Officer and member of the SAP Executive Board. So I'm really glad that you're here with me now. So let's start with the opening of the panel. So there was an amazing week in Davos, and a lot of the discussion and presentations were about AI. So I guess you're all fired up with ideas. And first of all, I wanted to understand from you, Nicole. So how do you see the current state of AI and also the transformational potential?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think what we're reflecting here, right, is we've seen the world sort of interacting with a technology that basically hit it a little bit over 12 months ago. And now people have something that they can really relate to. Before, I think it was very abstract, and now we're bringing questions into the discussion and discussing things that we weren't able to discuss before on such a broad stage. So we're basically, I mean, the Gen AI, right, is front and center of this. And now that we've all played around with the tool and we kind of wrapped our head around it and saw, okay, there's also progress and this, there are different tools and different ways of doing this. I think actually a lot of the questions are focusing around now, how can we get impact out of this? What can we actually now do for our enterprise, for our company to really create impact? And that there's a lot of stuff that's quite, let's say, yucky about this, right? Your data, people, processes, infrastructure, and so on. And I feel evaluation, ethics, right? Like the practicalities of doing things. And I feel a lot of the discussion is now focusing on this, which is great.
Yeah, you mentioned impact, so I guess that's a very nice segue to asking the next question to Juergen. So it's in the area of augmentation and automation. And in which areas of the enterprise solution and platforms do you see the largest potential for augmentation and automation?
And the largest potential I do see in supercharging humans. We oftentimes talk about like driving efficiency or new business models or top line or bottom line cost savings. I think the most important thing is if we design for humans, how to make them better, then we will see also challenges that we are discussing moving a little bit to the background. And I learned a lot here about, for example, a study in customer service environment, and they had an experiment. They had basically chatbot AI interacting with humans, and they had a human interacting with humans, but having access to all these amazing tools and information. Guess who was favored by the customers calling? Of course, the human. And that is, I think, one design criteria I think we can put forward. And of course, there are many more dimensions, but if you can put that, and if you ask how and where can we can augment billions of humans and equipping them with this technology.
And making them more creative, more productive, release them from very repetitive work. To be more creative and provide better customer service. In this area of transforming the business, and I guess that would really transform the business in the area of customer service, as you mentioned, but I guess there are many other areas where AI could transform the business. So my next question would be to you, Jonas. Aleph is a front runner in business AI, and I think it's amazing, so the success you had. So far, and what is your interpretation of redefining enterprise solutions with AI and helping to transform the business?
It's a great question, and it goes to the earlier point on, like, we all played around with ChatGPT, and we are now realizing that these consumer-facing chatbots are great for like writing a poem for your mother's birthday, right? But if you want to solve manufacturing or finance or compliance, is really not sufficient. And to your point, it doesn't matter how good AI gets. and it will get better fast, but the responsibility can only ever be taken by humans. So we need to think, how can we build AI in a way that empowers the human to take responsibility in some of the most complex things that we do? And I would argue, and this is kind of something that we've been building towards over the last months and years, that like a simple chat interface is not sufficient. We need to put more transparency and more like explainability and give the human a role of orchestrating knowledge and taking ownership. And I think that's something that we're now seeing after we've kind of like, shortly after the launch of ChatGPT, we all thought employment is over, right? We don't need employees anymore. And now we're realizing, wait a minute, it's not as easy, right? The world is far too complex to just hand it over to a chatbot.
Agreed. By the way, I also, of course, used ChatGPT when preparing the panel. And I already had questions in mind, so I wanted to test if there are more ones. And actually, I found 2 more ones. But it's an augmentation, but not a replacement. Next question would be again to Juergen, and thank you, Jonas. Juergen, it's around composability. So is composability a cornerstone in the future ERP? And how will you enable innovation and accelerate adoption of intelligence in the enterprise?
Yeah, a little bit different topic, but what is it about? Enterprises have business processes, they want to hire people, and at a certain point in time we will retire, and you have customers you need to take care of, and you need to order something, and so on and so on. You need to produce something. And when I interact with my peers and even not super large customers, oftentimes have a 4-digit number of applications. They need to get the job done. And therefore, of course, you need some way of organizing all these different applications, and then composability comes in. So how can you, for example, have one system for your HR department, but probably that's even a little bit too big, because you do have recruiting is very different from skilling, and learning is different from like payments. So therefore, composability is about having the right sized chunks of business capabilities, and those ones you can innovate with. You can infuse generative AI if it makes sense. You can realign, use different ones. And yes, this will be a main principle of how enterprises and companies are operating. What you need is a common understanding, for example, of a domain. What is an employee or workforce person? What is a product? So you need a platform for us, and that's the SAP Business Technology Platform. And there we also help customers and partners contribute to that and create the best end-to-end business processes for them, and managing that transformation as well with the respective tools.
Yes, thank you, Juergen. Now we move a little bit outside of the technical and transformational world, but to a very, very important topic, and that is around ethical boundaries. So we spoke a lot about the new possibilities that we have, but of course they should also be embedded in ethical boundaries. So in the path to automation and augmentation, how do we envision preserving human-centric elements? And Juergen, you already mentioned that with your example, that it's customers like very much a human augmented by an AI and not replaced. But how do we keep human-centric elements within AI, and of course driven by ERP solutions? And that's a question to you, Nicole.
Yeah, wow. So I think even a few topics, right, in this question that you're addressing. So I guess one around human centricity. I think as to the users, right, we were discussing this. You basically have, I would say, in both ways. Now you have an interface that's pretty seamless to use, and that makes it accessible to many more people. But I think it's also a period of getting used to kind of using this correctly, right? How often do you have the feeling people are searching when they're actually in a conversation? So I think that's quite interesting, and also especially for industry and deep industry impact, there's a lot of expertise, right? That's in the heads of people, a lot of domain expertise. And that's, I think, where also your approach is really interesting, right? Because you're also sort of tackling these domains, and not only sort of on a very general level doing things, but very deep industry. And so you have to find a way of getting deep domain experts excited to interact with these systems, and human-in-the-loop systems or wherever, so you can actually get this expertise into the system. And for that you have to, I think, that maybe goes a little bit back to the ethical, right? When humans interact with technologies, sometimes there's resistance, right? There's some excitement, and sometimes there's also resistance. Like maybe we all know this from ourselves. And I think you have to communicate very clearly what are you trying to do with the technology, what are you not trying to do, and think also about what are these ethical decisions you're taking, because there are a lot of like even micro ethical decisions you're taking constantly when you're interacting. You know, what avatar am I choosing? What gender does it have? There's so many little things that you can be doing as an organization and as a tech builder. I think it's not so easy to aggregate this all, right? Especially when you're like on a global scale, because we know ethical discussions within our family. Do we have the same ethical values, the four of us here? I don't know. In the whole organization, that's going to be a discussion. Then you scale this worldwide. So it's a very complex topic to do this properly. And so definitely very interesting for different tech layers, right? And I think you need to enable also users and companies who are using this to work in sort of to have some flexibility with what they're building. So I think transparency is key. And I mean, you're very good doing this. And and then it's going to be a complicated process. One of those yucky ones that we all have to face. It's not going to be easy. Ethics not easy, but good news, it's a human job.
And I guess you also already mentioned a key topic is transparency. And in a broader sense, that's also security and privacy. So I guess that's something, Jonas, I wanted to ask you, because that's where you and your company are very known for. So what measures should be taken to ensure security and privacy of business AI? I guess that's a very, very key question.
Yeah, and this is kind of what we've been focusing on from the very beginning, right? Because we were tackling those very difficult problems where there's hardly ever one true answer, and where it is incredibly important that we take responsibility for the outcomes. And so first of all, of course, this means protecting our customers, giving them the tools to build their harness the power of their own data set and combine the expertise they have, the intelligence they have inside their enterprises. Because kind of this is now a battle, like who will own this industrial revolution? Who will capture this value, right? Will this be like tech monopolies, or will this be industries that come from verticals and that have expertise in these verticals? And the technology that we're building, we're kind of not just copying LLMs, but we're trying to build technology into these platforms that is transparent and controllable, so that we empower humans to take responsibility. Because if you want to take responsibility, you need the right tools. If you have the wrong tools and everything you get is like one answer from a chatbot, you have no way of knowing how this has been created, right? Whether some biases, was it based on incorrect information, right? And what were the other alternatives that could have been chosen as well? And what were the impacts of those? So I think those are the questions we need to ask ourselves. And with all the conversations I'm having, everybody wants to be in this powerful position. It's not like people are rejecting this responsibility. And I see it as our job to build the tools to make that a possibility.
Yeah, and for business, that's very important. I mean, it's also in a private use case, ChatGPT important. I mean, you get a result.
To a lesser extent, right? I mean, people care much less about it, about like the correctness of like a consumer-based product. But of course, some people care a lot, yeah.
But in business, it's essential. You need to know how you get to that result.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, I mean, with all the amazing capabilities, these models cannot reason. They cannot replace a human mind or a human intelligence. So they are very good at memorizing like patterns, like far beyond like learning texts heart by heart. But they are not capable of doing the same kind of judging and reasoning that humans can do.
Yeah, no, that's really good. Maybe these are really, really key questions, ethical questions, and also security and privacy. So Juergen and Nicole, please feel free to add to that question, and to your ideas that you want to complement.
Yeah. I feel this question, right, that's also been kind of on top of people's mind, because this technology has been unleashed. So everybody's sort of talking about this AGI, right? Like, is it basically artificial general intelligence going to, overtake the human? And then, when you basically so the question is, will technology take us over, or is there still a chance? And I think we're already at the point where we know technology passes the Turing test, it can take the bar exam, it can do many things better than we can. But that doesn't mean it's generally intelligent, it just means it can do certain things better than we, and we suck at many things. So I think that's fair enough. But then you look at sort of what's actually where we actually at, and that makes me then I feel we need to take this discussion there and basically show people we're very far away from this kind of dystopia on general artificial intelligence, but it's more about, you know, these very concrete things that you're saying, you know, two lawyers arguing which version of the text is actually the good one, and how do you embed this in the system if like a human process can't even generate three opinions, you know, how do we model this? What's actually the good thing? Who should be deciding what's good? Those are the very concrete questions we're dealing with, and not sort of when is technology gonna, you know, kill us all?
Yeah, and then especially in enterprise, there are many layers of security and defense, so to say. It starts from model and transparency, it goes over to how do you actually want to use this, or how do you embed this capability in a broader context in our environment, often enterprise applications. And then of course it's about the data side of the house, like which data goes in, like how diligent are you in that part of that process. And then of course it's about customers, giving them security that data they put in addition, and when they ask the model something, that this information actually is not leaving the space and going to someone to build another model or going to a competition or something like that. So we do take care of that as well. There's contractual topics, because at SAP there's a lot of enterprise data in SAP systems, but that data belongs to customers. It's their data. So you need to arrange for the contractual agreement as well, that it's very transparent to them what is allowed to do with that data, what is not allowed to do, and that they give active consent to be doing that. And then also even afterwards, they can still regulate which kinds of and parts of their data do they want to offer for AI systems to be trained, because then they also get better results. And which parts do they say, no, we trust, but no, we have the free choice to not do it. And this is then also okay. And always in these discussions for me, we mentioned earlier, we are not outsourcing accountability to that model in almost all of the cases. There will be some cases where things just work like today. Our tech, we interact so much with AI today. When you do a search on the internet, when you drive a car, in some countries when you cross a traffic light, there's AI involved, when to switch it to green, when to switch to red, etc. So therefore, we will have such cases as well. In enterprise, we are not outsourcing that accountability. Human is in the role, human is paid actually to check what the model is coming back with, and now has hopefully superpowers to be even more excited in the job and do even better, get even more done, etc.
Now with all these new possibilities with AI, of course, governance is very important. I mean, and there's a lot of discussion on this ethical boards that companies need to have. Maybe, Juergen, if there's something...
I can be very quick. We were the first, or amongst the first, to having an AI ethics council with internal and external representation. And there think philosophers, ethics professors, and think in that direction that give us, because we of course also have a bias, we have blind spots, everyone has. So give a different perspective, even from the outside, what would potentially make sense to do and what would not make sense to do. And we also stopped actually a lot of cases where in theory you can do it, but it doesn't align with our values. We don't do it.
I think that's very important, so that there's governance and a structured process, that if there are new ideas and new possibilities, that there's a discussion, a multi-stakeholder discussion on whether this is not only great, looks great, but this is also desirable and ethical.
And this is not new, right? This is like, whenever we do something, every industrial revolution, every technology that we're applying, we have to apply mindful. Like, we have to think about the consequences, we have to think about responsibility. And of course, like, we are now introducing superpowers to knowledge work, as we may have introduced superpowers to manual labor in the past with the industrial revolutions. But I mean, it had a massive impact on the world. And I think it's great that now we are looking at potential outcomes from the very beginning and kind of do this in parallel, not just kind of rush forward with capturing value. And then later, I don't know, 10 years later, oh, wait a minute, right? We didn't intend for these outcomes. So especially because this industrial revolution is the fastest one yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I also feel confident that, exactly to your point, that I guess a lot of people, when they think about AI, kind of have in mind also what happened with social media, right? That's kind of a very intertwined conversation. And I feel there we were 10 years late. And I'm very actually not at ease. I mean, there's still a lot of stuff to figure out, but we're actually having the discussion and we're asking the right questions and we're going to figure it out.
Yeah, and there are real risks. You mentioned social media. So for disinformation is a real risk. And we need to work on that. But of course, also, we look at things more from a B2B side of the house and enterprise applications, while of course a lot of other discussions also need to take place and are taking place in those kind of dimensions as well.
Now we had a lot of discussion on AI enabling process automation or augmenting humans. But maybe there are also new ideas or ideas for a new business model. You know, I guess there have been so many amazing discussion and presentations this week. And maybe you were sitting in a discussion and thinking, wow, actually, based with this idea that I could take that and create a new business model. So maybe if you want to share some of the ideas that were sparked to you that week.
I can start. And this is kind of one of the things I'm trying to help our customers with. And to your point, Juergen, it's not just throwing something at a model, it's transforming businesses, right? And that's why I'm so excited also about our partnership, is because you need, as an enterprise, you need strong partners to help you along this transformation. And I'm always kind of telling people, think about where you have a unique advantage. You have unique knowledge, you have unique distribution channels, and you can reinvent your own business. And we are currently involved in like huge customers that are thinking about how can we take our existing business and put it upside down, and do something that is like really unique. And I think that's phenomenal, because this will create a lot of innovation, but it will also lead to our customers owning this innovation, right? And I think that's a huge opportunity for Germany and Europe, because we own manufacturing, right? We the kings of manufacturing to some extent.
Juergen and Nicole, any
so now we're bringing together the kings.
You are doing it yourself.
No. So we also have a venture building fund, but so I think some of the areas where I'm really excited to hear more about how we can rethink business models, right, is around. I'm really excited about biology, for example. That whole area, and how can we also create some of the solutions for some very pressing issues like sustainability and so on, right? That also is like a B2B massive at scale issue that we need to tackle rather quickly. And so very happy that Gen AI will be involved there and basically supercharging us already as we speak. I think one area that I find also relevant for all sectors is actually education, right? So as we're speaking about a lot of technology, there are a lot of we're in organizations, and those are primarily, as you were saying, composed of humans. So the question is, how can we actually accelerate the learning journey, right, for people, to bring them on board, that they are actually capable of understanding the technology in a way that they can have these thoughts. How is this transforming my business model? That they can play with this creatively, right? And creating that layer, I think, is also actually a great business case for Gen AI, because it's such a at scale and large problem that personalization and sort of content creation there will be really beautiful across sectors with Gen AI.
Well, even further, right? We can, like, education I'm also very passionate about, because I feel that a lot of children are born into environments where they don't get all the support they need, right? And with AI, potentially, I mean, we have to be tread carefully here, right? But there's really the potential to help humans out in a way that scales and that we couldn't do in the past.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah. And also give access.
Exactly, right.
Yeah. And access, talking about that a little bit, and SAP, it's not widely known, but roughly 300 million people regularly use an SAP system. It's 4% of the world's population, which is pretty significant, I would say. So we are building a digital assistant in Joule to helping them interacting even easier, better, and extending their know-how as well. We have, for example, completely different area, but low code, no code. You now can enable people to actually become developers in a very seamless way. And that's also supported by large language models in our systems. Or think about, we have the SAP Business Network. I checked the facts again before we went here to Davos. The SAP Business Network is larger than whole Amazon retail business worldwide, plus whole eBay business worldwide, plus whole Alibaba business worldwide. And then you combine those three, you double it, and the SAP Business Network is still larger. So you have millions of companies that work together, and especially now you have challenges in supply chains. You want to find the best ESG suppliers that follow guardrails in that dimension as well, if you want. And that, for example, also helps. And then we will have Gen AI capabilities in finance, in supply chain, in HR, in procurement, in customer experience, in all the technology areas like coding, but also integrations. And then on top, as you mentioned, what is unique for companies? And here now you can actually think about, I would extend and build on top of what you said, data sets. What is it that you potentially have? And that can be the small or medium-sized company in a super small town somewhere. They can be the best in something that they now can take and actually can develop new business models, because they can actually now scale that beyond, for example, manual work, or beyond the scale of I have 5 people that can reach out to customers and do sales, because you can actually create new models and new scalable business with that.
I think that's actually a great point that you're touching right there at the end. The accessibility, so the barrier for accessing this technology has just dramatically fallen over the last 13 months, right? And that's fabulous news for a lot of these small and medium-sized companies.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's fair to say that large language models and this technology, transformer technology, is similar to the revolution on introduction of the internet. Also before the internet, accessing information. Yeah, you could go to the library. And now, and now in theory you can say, okay, fair, I can read all books in the world, but in practice we can't. And now we have a friend there, the large language model, that actually did read all the books on the internet, or that are digitized, did read everything on the internet, and now we can ask that friend, and that friend can support us. That's how I would like to look at it.
I guess also if customers start to get all the layers right, so getting the data layer right, bringing AI to the enterprise processes, you could also imagine that the board gets much better support for decision making, that an ERP system, now we are asking an ERP system for information, but maybe an intelligent ERP system in future could maybe also make proposals for where are areas that could be optimized based on the data that it has. Or maybe even if we are more creative on new business model, that it finds, if you would offer a new product, that it actually a market for a new product, a new market for an existing one, or a new product, if we come up with that there may be a market for that.
It's partially existing already. So with Just Ask, you can ask our system for any analytical insight, where in the past you probably would have to ask someone, hey, could you please prepare that for me? And then like a few weeks later you would get an answer. So that exists continuous intelligence. So you can really define what is, like for certain KPIs, a threshold I want to be informed about if that threshold is exceeded, and then have an explanation why. And I give one example. It's a very small one, but I hope you get the idea. We're working with the San Francisco 49ers, football, and we just did a prototype with just one hot dog stand. Just one. Super small example. We predicted with our business decision simulator how many hot dogs will be sold. And we predicted something, and in the end it was like 8 hot dogs less were sold. Why is this important? Without this tool, actually their decision would have been to open the next box of 50 hot dogs to prepare them. All 50 would go to waste. So now 8 went to waste, otherwise it would be 58 going to waste. And that's one hot dog stand. And of course now that is, if you imagine scaling that for reducing food waste as one dimension and one example, how these kind of small examples but tangible can actually make an outsized impact.
Maybe as a last question, I would be very interested in your vision. So let's say we move 5 to 10 years ahead, and how do you see that AI would have revolutionized ERP? So what would be like your dream and vision on what would be amazingly different from now? I would be very interested in your view.
So I want to free white collar workers from the soul crushing parts of the work. Right? And like everybody, and this includes myself, like we are doing so much stuff. We're all stressed out. We're all overloaded with information. We're pushing numbers. We're pushing documents. We hardly have any time to read them. And this is stressing us all out, and it's not good for us. And I hope that in a few years, we'll be looking back at that time the same way we're looking at the back-breaking manual labor that people did a while back. Kind of say, thank God we transcended that. Thank God we now have technology so that a human is in a much better place.
Yeah, I would also say, and I can only second that for sure. And I think with the ERP systems, I guess, right? I think I kind of see that there will be very specialized models. Even, ERP is huge, right? How many industries are you serving and so on? So, yeah, 25, okay, But so I think, it will be very specialized again, because some of these predictions, are already amazing that are being made, but the more specialized you can get, maybe the better they will get. So I think, and the seamless interaction. So I think maybe in future, there will be even more people interacting with an ERP, but they don't know, right? Because it's just part of their...
It's seamless, yeah.
It's so seamless, speech, and it's part of one of the agents or companions they're using that... I don't know, maybe that's going to be a marketing challenge for you, but...
I think it's going to be fine.
I think, I think it's going to be great, yeah.
And for me, a little bit, if stepping back a little bit, in the moment we had the hype, and it feels like every day, every week is a new high hype when it comes to AI, Gen AI particularly, or large action models and things like that. We have a new amazing toolbox. It's more than just one tool, it's a toolbox. What we see is in the hundreds of use cases we went through, it helps with summarizations. So you talked about documents, so getting summaries, and then vice versa, writing documents. Special form of writing is coding. There it can help as well for pro code developers and also citizen developers. Then important for us, like the hot dog example, decision making. Do I now open this box of 50 hot dogs and do I prepare it? Because I don't want to be out of hot dogs. How bad could that be? But also I don't want it to go to waste. So what do I do? And the last is agents that you can have in the moment, medium-sized and medium complex tasks, maybe later more complex tasks, and hand that to an agent that supports you. So these things we see, and you asked about 5 to 10 years, that's in the moment a super long cycle. No one can give you an exact answer. But if we, in 5 to 10 years, I think are back down from that hype cycle and just say, hey, it's a tool, we learned how to use it. We are here, you mentioned it, in this Heimat Museum, so you cannot see it, I guess, but there's a photograph of the first tram, 1833 or something like that. They established that from Davos Dorf to the Davos other area, and Platz, exactly. And there was like huge debate that there's now a tram that was like 4 horses carrying a carriage. Huge debate, like how can this be? And that we get down from that cycle and really just make productive use of that technology, looking at all different dimensions. And then actually it will be about hopefully improving the world and giving people a better life. That is what inspires all of us at SAP, and why we 107,000 people wake up every day to make the world run better, step by step.
So I think very good closing words, Juergen. So I want to thank you all for your contribution to the panel and sharing your vision and ideas. I think this was amazing. Thank you very much.
Thanks for
having
us.
Thanks for having us. Thank you.